Caesar de Bello Gallico, Book 5, Chapter 24. In this passage, we are going to be seeing Caesar's greatest defeat and how he rhetorically defends himself in his choices. So we start with an ablative absolute clause, with the ships having been drawn up. This was after their attempt in Britain, the second attempt to mess up. And ablative absolute clause with the Council of the Gauls having been completed or through done, where locative place phrase samo brevi, he was compelled, notice nominative singular, that's Caesar, to what? To place the army in winter quarters. Otherwise, that's an adverb, than in previous years, ablative place phrase of time. And he was also compelled to distribute the legions into more nations because there was a drought at the time in Gaul. They didn't have the ability for food. And this is what he says, because in that year, the grain, the corn, which is really the grain, had, subject phrase, had come forth. Adverb, this is the comparative form of the adjective being used as an adverb, more scantily, more anguishly in Gaul on account of droughts. So therefore, because he can't put all of his forces in one place because nobody could support them, he spread them out. Out of which things, remember when you deal with Caesar, out of that or out of which is the best way to translate it, he gave, object phrase, 1, understood legion, 2, dative indirect object phrase, Gaius Fabius, the legate, tugendum, this is the gerundive of purpose, 1 legion to be led into the Morini, another to Quintus Cicero to be led into the Nervii, a third to Lucius Roscius, understood to be led into the Aedui. He ordered the 4th legion to winter in the border of the Treueri in the Reni with Titus Labienus. That's his number 2 guy, who is, of course, a bloodthirsty butcher. He placed 3 in Belgium. So in that area he had pacified. He set over, this is praefecit, so you're looking at a dative, to these, therefore it's a compound verb taking the dative, Marcus Crassus the quaestor, and Lucius Muniatus Plancus, and Gaius Trebonius legates. Now, here's where it gets tougher. He sent 1 legion, which he had levied recently across the Padum River, and 5 cohorts in the Eburones, the greatest part of which, the Eburones, is between the Mosa and the Rhenus River, who were under the authority of Ambiorix and Catuolacus. He ordered the legates Quintus Titurius Sabinus and Lucius Aurelius Cotta, dative, to be in charge, to compound these legions. Now, look at the text. Where do you think he's going to lead the drama? He's going to lead the drama into this area where he's given the most amount of talking about the 5 cohorts into the Eburones. Now, this is the big thing he says here. He ordered the legates to be in charge to these soldiers. Now, so he's talking about the Eburones. He's going to be putting a legion who are recent recruits, and 5 cohorts, which is, half a legion, to be sent into the Eburones. And then he gives the geography, and he gives these personae dramatis, these people who are going to be showing up in the play. Now, he also doesn't give just 1, he gives 2 commanders, which is kind of interesting, which you'll see the drama play out shortly. With the legions, ablative absolute clause, having been distributed to this fashion, he thought, indirect statement clause, subject phrase infinitive, that he is able to remedy deponent verb form, complement clause, most easily, of corn scarcity. Why is that? Either dative or genitive? We're going to have to find out. And however, the contenebantur were being contained. What were being contained? The winter quarters of all these legions, omnium harum legionem, were being contained, were sitting for how long? Accusative of extent, for in 100,000, which is 100 miles, of paces, genitive of description or genitive part, except that understood legion, which he had given to Lucius Roscius to be led into the most subjected and quiet part. Now, when you say subjected and quiet part, that means they killed everybody. So less people to fight, more peaceful. Meanwhile, he himself resolved to tarry, to wait in Gaul until he had recognized, this is a relative adverb of purpose, that the legions having been settled, that the legions were being settled, therefore you have an indirect statement clause, participle, you don't oftentimes have the form sum there to create the periphrastic, and that the winter quarters were fortified. So usually during the winter he would go back to Rome, Caesar being the political animal he was, to make sure that his interests were being cared for. But it says right here, Caesar is waiting in Gaul until he's making sure that all of his arrangements have been taken care of. So, in the drama that will unfold in this book, we will see dangers to deal with Quintus Titurius Sabinus and Lucius Aurelius Cotta, who were in charge of a legion and a half of freshly trained troops, right? These legion, which he had recently levied or conscripted across the Padua. These are people from Cisalpine Gaul, or what's also called the Padus. They were Gauls who were subjugated about 40, 50 years ago, but they've been much Romanized. So this is how they were going to hope for their Roman citizenship. And we also see that these dealing with this area of the Buranese, who were a Belgic tribe. And remember, Caesar said in Book 1 that the Belgians were most fierce of them all, which is between the Mosa and the Rhine. Remember the geography? The Rhine River is the border to Germany. And therefore, you also have a possible danger of the Germans. So we have here an interesting situation applying. It may seem boring, but in the introduction, Caesar is setting up the drama. What will happen with these legions? What will happen in the Eburones? What will happen with Ambiorix and Catullacus? What will happen with Titus Sabinus and Lucius Aurelius Cotta? Tune in next time, true believers, for that and more answers. And until then, Excelsior!